YouTube and welcome to another GV anime review, with this week an anime that ran from fall 2017 to winter 2018 and was quite highly anticipated. I am talking about Production IG's latest creation, Mahoutsukai no Yome, or the Ancient Magus Bride. Production IG is a very respected studio in the anime world, so when they come out with a brand new anime, the expectations for it tend to rise pretty quickly. So let's see if Mahoutsukai no Yome could keep up with Production IG's high standards. The main character of Mahoutsukai no Yome is a 15-year-old girl called Chise Hattori. Now Chise is basically done with life. She was abandoned by her mother when she was young, and she was told multiple times that her life is a mistake. So now Chise doesn't value her life anymore, and she offers herself to an auction for magical creatures, where she gets bought by Elias Ainsworth, some sort of human magical creature hybrid and a magus. Now after buying Chise, Elias doesn't make her his slave or worse, but tells Chise that she is also a magical creature called a slay beggy. That is some sort of very rare magus that holds enormous magical potential. So Elias begins to train Chise in the ways of a magus and helps her to crawl out her dark pit. The first thing that I want to congratulate Mahoutsukai no Yome on is its animation. Production IG is known to have a pretty high standard for animation, and Mahoutsukai no Yome definitely met that standard. It was an anime about magic, and I feel like the animation really played into that. The art style, the colors, and overall the entire animation had this magical feeling to it. And the moment where the magic was the strongest was in the final episode of part 1, which was also the best episode of the series. But everything in that episode worked, and the way how it was animated pushed the climax of the episode to an even higher level. So as I just mentioned, the final episode of part 1 was the best episode, and to me it was the perfect climax to a very impressive story in the first part. It already began in the first episode, where the story took a really strong start. I was immediately captivated and intrigued by the darkness of this story. Especially the incredibly dark backstory for Chise made that at that moment Mahoutsukai no Yome was one of my favorite animes of the fall season. And the story of the first part kept on being interesting and intriguing because of the development of Chise. It was really thought-provoking to see a character like Chise. A character who has dropped so far down that dark spiral that she doesn't value her own life one bit anymore. She's even willing to be a slave for the rest of her life, just so that she would be valued a bit, because to her, she isn't worth anything. I found this to be very thought-provoking, and it gave us an idea of how people in deep depression think and how they just don't value their life anymore. And all that development for Chise, her crawling out of that ravine, came to an immense climax in the final episode of the first part. The talk she has with the dragon was really deep, and then came the moment where Chise masters her magic and turns into a phoenix. That was a brilliant move. There was so much meaning in the phoenix, and as I mentioned before, the way how it was animated showed how Chise was finally liberated from this lifelong burden. A phoenix who rises from its ashes was the perfect metaphor for her. She had been burned to the ground, to the point where her life was nothing else but a pile of ash. But then she rises up from the ashes and explodes back into life as a giant, burning, impressive phoenix. So the characters of course played a big role in the great story of Mahoutsukai no Yome. And not only Chise, also Elias had a very interesting personality. At the start, Elias looks like the great savior, like the one who will guide Chise in her magic and basically save her life. But then we also start to discover the dark side of Elias's personality. And the entire anime, I was wondering if Elias was a good character or a bad character, because he showed traits for both. On one hand, he does guide Chise in her magic and values her, but then we also learn that he is keeping secrets from Chise and that there are more monstrous aspects to his personality. So those contradictions in Elias's personality made him, to me, the most interesting character of this anime, even more than Chise. Now you might have noticed that during my positive section I specifically mentioned the first part of Mahoutsukai no Yome. That was because the first part of this anime was impressive, but the second part was way less. As soon as the second part started, I didn't feel it anymore. The story became very weird and complicated and I just couldn't follow anymore. Now, when I used that argument in the past, I got the comment that it isn't because I couldn't follow the story anymore that the story was bad. And I agree with that comment. It is perfectly true. But the way that I think is that if I can't follow the story anymore, then the story is doing something wrong. There have been animes where the story captivated me all the way from episode 1 to episode 24, and that is what didn't happen here in Mahoutsukai no Yome. The story took a very weird turn in part 2, and it just wasn't my style anymore. My second negative point is less important or less impacting than my problem with the story. My other issue with this anime was that the comedy and the thereby use of chibi animation was badly timed. There were several intense and serious scenes where suddenly some lame joke was used and the animation switched to chibi animation, and it completely broke the atmosphere that was being built up at that moment. I made the same comment in my review of Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso, where I also had the problem of chibi comedy interfering with the story at really bad times. So if you're going to use that, fine, but time it well. So as a conclusion, the best way how I can describe Mahoutsukai no Yome after finishing it is it's a shame. It's a shame that this anime didn't hold the high quality that it had in the first 12 episodes. It's a common problem in animes that they start off with a really great arc but then fail to stretch it all the way to the end. So overall, I'm going to rate Mahoutsukai no Yome at 3.5 out of 5 stars. It started out really great and my hopes were up that this would be one of those animes that would glue me to my screen all the way from beginning to the end. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. There is one anime that resembles Mahoutsukai no Yome in such a way that it almost seems like the two main characters are the same person. That anime is Akagami no Shirayuki Hime, or Snow White with red hair. Chise and Shirayuki resemble each other so much that it almost looks like Shirayuki jumped out of her world and landed here in the world of Mahoutsukai no Yome. Both animes feature magic, a route of development and growth for the female character, and a romance. Now, the romance is more profound in Snow White with red hair, since it is a romance anime and the prince-princess relationship was a lot more suited for a full-blown romance. And with that, I conclude my review of Mahoutsukai no Yome. As usual, you can find the full list of all my animes and reviews of Red Anime Planet. As usual, I will put a link in the description box down below. Now, if you want me to review a particular anime from this list, please put it in the comments. Also, if you have a recommendation for me, put it in the comments as well. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, visit me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and subscribe to this channel for more reviews in the future. Then I will say, arigatou gozaimasu, and I will see you all in the next video.